You ready to record, bud?
When I moved here, you didn't tell me it would be this cold.
Look, I told you we were doing cold opens for our podcast. I thought you understood what that meant.
That's not what I'm talking about. It is 9 degrees outside.
It's negative 15 with the wind. Don't forget about that. It's a dry cold.
I thought this was the warmer part of Michigan.
That's our secret. There is no warm part. Don't you do it. Don't you do it. Part of your winter training arc
Hi,
is that you're getting better.
everybody.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Into the Deep podcast.
Where we
As
have not gone in a while.
Look, we have finally come back from our winter training arcs. Bigger, stronger, faster.
With more hair loss.
Yes, I shaved. But
I'm
no,
really
yeah.
embracing my Saitama arc, trying to train so hard my hair falls out.
Hopefully you have enough for the wedding.
Listen, my dad has already agreed that if I shave my head, he'll shave his head. And my brother agreed that if my dad shaves his head, he'll shave his head. And my other brother agreed that if my brother shaves his head, he'll shave his head. So I
Just keep
feel
the
like
beard at least.
I gotta do it for the bit.
You just got to at least keep the beard. We don't need babyface Josh again. Uh
No,
but
at
yeah,
that point I would look at one of the thumbs from Spy Kids.
thumb thumbs.
The thumb thumbs.
But yeah, it has been a while. We in our defense, we had plans to record earlier than this, but then Josh got into another car accident.
So folks, story time with Mr. Yonda. As I used to tell my high school students. So I was driving back from my fiance's house. It had snowed a couple inches. I was on the highway driving 65. The speed limit was 70. So it wasn't, like I was going
You
fast.
you're being
The,
cautious.
the snow had all stopped.
Mm-hmm.
It was mostly slush at this point. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to drive a little bit slower. Driving on the roadway ahead of me, I saw, okay, the lane I was in was not clear really, oh, at least over half of it. So I was like, I'm going to slowly move over just out of an abundance of caution.
Yep.
At the moment I started to move over, my tires slid out underneath me from the back, and I did a spin. I ended up in front of another car. They T-boned me. So rest in peace to the Kia Sportage. You lived a long
It
life.
lasted longer than any of us expected it to.
Listen, the fact is, I think that car was cursed. I bought
I'm
that
not gonna
car.
argue with that. I remember that car.
Andrew, how much do you think I bought that car for?
Did you buy it for like 13?
Double it and give it to the next guy.
Okay, 26.
$23,000 because the stupid, and I will say this, the stupid Lawton Kia dealership in Lawton, Oklahoma had a service plan that even when I told them I am moving in 3 weeks, they said, well, we can't get it off the car. I was like, I'm not even going to take advantage of the service plan. Like, if anything, I'm saving you money. That was an additional $6,000 on the car. They had it listed for sticker price on the website for 15. I was like, oh great, I
And
have
they brought you up
$10,000.
8?
Yeah,
Wow.
after tax.
Fair. But
I went into the store with $10,000 cash. I said, I have 10 grand cash. I don't want to pay more than 15 for this car.
and they said, "We got them, boys."
But I also was moving in 3 weeks.
No, I remember. I was part of that move.
So a few days after I buy said car, that's why I
Hail
say it was
damage.
cursed. Tornado blows through town. Hundreds of hail dings across my car.
Yep, I
I
remember.
go to the Geico. I go to the Geico Relief Service Center. And I'm like, how much can you give me for the like? Can you guys fix it? You know, what is it? I'm moving in a couple weeks. Like, oh, your car's totaled. It's only worth 10 grand.
Like, I just paid a lot more for it.
So I was like, you know what? I'll just drive with the hail dings. It functions fine. And then, obviously, the car somehow made it from Oklahoma to Michigan
It
because
tried to
one of
it tried to jump off the.
the tire straps fell off.
Yep.
And then I don't think there was anything major that happened until the car got stolen.
Yeah, I mean it was just fine, and then the car got stolen.
The tire did pop that one time, but that happens.
So,
Car got
anyways,
stolen. Then the car, unfortunately, has passed away. So now we have a Honda Civic.
I don't know why it's so funny to me that you have a Honda Civic, but it just is.
It's because I am big boy.
The
And
Honda
this
Civic's not
Civic
even that small of a car. It's just funny.
the Honda Civic is about the size of Brendan's Prius. So imagine me driving the Prius.
It's bigger than the Prius, but anyway. Yeah. So Josh,
So that
got,
happened, and then I left for Texas
yep, you
a
left for
few weeks after that.
Texas. I was in Colorado for a wedding. And then as soon as I got home from that wedding, I was like, oh, we can record. And then I have a major plumbing problem that cost me $3,000. So if you want to donate to the Make Andrew Less Poor cause, hit me up.
Don't worry, I have a plan for that.
Um,
Andrew, how do you feel about going and becoming mercenaries?
have you considered becoming pirates?
Fortunate son starts playing in the background.
uh, so that's kind of been what's happening, anyways. To wrap up our
that's that's why we've been gone. Andrew, how you been, bud? What's going on in your world other than that?
I'm poor. Uh, I mean that's like I said, we went to go see Michaela. Michaela got married.
Shout out, Michaela.
Shout out Michaela, who is
She
definitely
doesn't
never
listen to
listened
that.
to or never will listen to this podcast. But no, that was beautiful. We saw you guys for New Year's Eve. Then we flew out of Lansing.
Was
Some
Miriam in the way?
nope. They just had a best man and maid of honor. They didn't have like a party, but it was a small wedding, anyways. Even with the number of people, like even with the guests, it was pretty small. But we were very fortunate to be invited. We got to stay with Michaela. Us, Jamie and Riley got to stay at Michaela's mom's house. So she was a
Oh, fun.
very gracious hostess for us, and it was beautiful. It was 60 degrees in January, which was
Oh,
in
in
Colorado.
Colorado.
It was
Oh,
it was
that's
nice.
so nice. Yeah, it was 80 the whole time in Texas.
Well, Michaela was really ticked because she booked a January wedding because she wanted snow for her wedding photos, and there was not a bit of snow on the ground.
You could just move to Michigan and start all over.
That's what I recommended. We'll never drag her away from Colorado. She loves it too much. Yeah. Other than that, not a whole lot happening. OCIA is in full swing now. We are in crunch time, getting everyone's paperwork pulled together. Uh, Miriam's school was closed yesterday, and it's closed again today. And
Three-peat.
well, I told her, I looked at her, like, the next 2 days is supposed to be as cold or colder.
How many bad weather days do they have?
Not that many. Because it's supposed to be cold next week too. But they're going on. They have a bunch of they leave for the March for Life tomorrow. So, uh,
Oh, nice. Is
so
she going with them?
yep, the kids convinced her to go, and then the school said they'll pay for her hotel and stuff. She's like, oh well, in that case, I guess I'll go. So, and I got Matthew staying the night Thursday through Sunday with us. So
Nice. So you won't be alone and sad.
darn, I can't just play Tarkov the whole time. I have to entertain my brother.
Is Matthew coming down for training?
Yeah, I don't think he does the training. I think he just sits in his office and does chaplain things now. But yeah, yeah, that's what's going on our side. Anything interesting on your end besides the car?
Let's see. Wedding planning is in full swing. So trying to nail down a photographer and a caterer. We have a venue booked.
Very nice.
Megan's trying on wedding dresses. At some point, I will get tuxes together. Megan
Does
wants to
does the tux from my wedding not fit you still?
we're doing navy.
Oh, that's right. You hate me.
Hate is a strong word.
I don't even like navy suits in general, and I have a black tux, and you're like, nah.
Well, our wedding colors are navy and
Yeah,
copper,
I know, I know.
which still waiting on you to RSVP to that, bud.
You haven't sent me a link.
I definitely sent you guys a save the date
Yeah,
or gave.
save the date is not an RSVP.
Did you flip it over on the other side to scan the QR code?
Yeah, that save the dates are to, hey, put this on your calendar. The invitation is what you RSVP to, dingus.
Well, we're not sending. We're not sending everybody invitations and save the dates.
That's on
Shit,
you.
no. Oh no, only 100 people are coming. I guess I save on food costs.
It's a fine balance. You got to figure out who to invite. The trick is you invite people you know who can't come, but will still are still obligated to send you a gift.
Yeah, I don't have many of those people. Because
You
here's
could,
the thing: everybody on my side has RSVP'd yes, pretty much. Like all of my friends are like, "This is gonna be the wedding of the century," and I'm like, "Oh
everyone's like,
no."
we never thought he could do it. I gotta see this. He's pulling my leg.
Alicia and Pat both were like, "Yeah, one of like we can't be in your wedding party because we both want to be at the wedding and with the baby," and I was like, "Yeah." So no, they're still coming. They're just like Pat's not in the party.
Yeah, but no, it's good wedding plans going on, and you got time. You got another 10 months or so.
Yeah, I mean, I would personally, from my perspective, all the things that require large deposits, I want done by March.
Yeah, and that's a pretty reasonable goal too.
So, like catering and photographer. I'm still working on the flowers. I'm trying to convince Megan to do fake flowers or no flowers for the bridesmaids. But
I'm gonna tell you right now, fake flowers are gonna run you almost as much as real flowers. Like we looked into that as
that's
an option.
why that's why I want to just do no flowers for the bridesmaids.
Good luck.
I know. It seemed to work out well for Tim's wedding. I've looked back at all the photos. Not a single one of them had a bouquet.
Yeah, it's traditionally they all have their own mini bouquet. Some people don't do that because they just want to be all the focus on the bride. I think in ours every bridesmaid had a small bouquet. Uh,
Yeah.
but we also got a really great deal
The
because
other,
we
the
knew
other
everyone.
thought, the other thing I'm trying to convince her of is like, can we just do Costco flowers because they're going to be a third of the price of going with florist. She goes, but they're going to die, and I go, not if you can order flowers through Costco ahead of time and tell them when you want them ready for.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's what you do that's what most florists do. You order like months in advance and say, I need these on this day, and then they drop them off.
Well, like, so our sponsor couple for the Diocese of Lansing is the person who was the former director of campus ministry at St. John's and her husband. And so I've been asking her, like, okay, right, like ministry related questions as far as like how is being married and in campus ministry and stuff like that. But then I also was like, okay, you got married in Lansing, right? And you were trying to ball on a budget, right? Like, what did you do? And she's like, oh, we got flowers through Costco. But
At the end of the
I
day,
gotta, I
you
gotta pick a hill to die on. Right now, I'm budgeting about 6,000 for catering and 2,000 for photographer. So before flowers, with everything else that we've already paid for, and everything else I already know the cost of, we're sitting at 14.9.
which is a pretty respectable number to keep it to.
My budget that I would have liked was about 15. So now $6,000 is a bit high on the food cost.
Yeah, it depends on what you go
It
with.
might go. It might go down, right? I gotta meet with the caterers and stuff like that because I gotta figure out with hors d'oeuvres and all that kind of stuff. And Megan wants to do our own wedding cake, and
There's a lot of ways you can cut costs.
yep. So, but I feel like, yeah. So wedding planning is in full swing, and then students are back. I have worked 12 days nonstop.
Gross.
Yeah, that's the ministry cycle, man.
Yeah,
You wouldn't understand.
whatever. Let's let's I think people have heard about our break long enough.
People don't
Let's
care.
yeah, this is the part people skip through anyway. Um let's get into what we're really about. The winter arc.
So,
2026 is shaping up to be the greatest year of all time.
so listen, we've already got Maduro. Here's what I'm thinking.
I want to hear what you're thinking because I have something very funny about that.
I think we go take Mao next.
Mao?
Mao Zedong.
He's dead.
I know.
Look, I know that we blew up that one dude's grave on the way out.
Che Guevara.
Yeah, Guevara, but no, apparently the Colombian president like sent out a video saying like you won't you like you can't get me. Like, did he not watch that Maduro did the same thing and we yoinked him? It's even funnier the second time.
Listen, and I'm so excited for this Greenland New Deal.
Apparently, look, I know NATO sent out people. Apparently, the people of Greenland are open to talking business. Last I saw. Um, and
I watched the Trump press release yesterday, and apparently one of the Danish members of parliament basically told the president, within earshot of all the reporters, to F off. So
well,
I feel like talks are breaking down, some might say.
they could be. Alberta though is they're putting on the ballot to secede from Canada.
Could we take Alberta?
They want to join the U.S. supposedly. At the very least, they don't want to do with Canada anymore. But they're basically an extension of Montana, anyways, and they'd be a huge addition to the Americas.
Listen, all I'm saying is 2026 feels like 2016. Fetty Wap's out of jail. Frat music is back.
uh,
Donald Trump is president.
do you know how cheap gas prices were in Colorado when we were there?
I don't want to know.
I'll let you know. There was a one. They started with a 1, not a 2. A $1.65.
Yeah, I think that's about what they were in Texas.
I was like, I never want to leave here. But no, even with that, like gas prices are still going down. Like, look,
See, where are gas prices going down for you? Gas prices start here at the start of the week at 2.89, and by the end of this week they will be 3.15 again. I'm calling it right now because that's the trend in Lansing. They have not dropped below 2.89 anywhere except at Costco.
at most of the places around here, like non Costco places, it's been about 250, 260. But like Costco in Ohio, it was 206 last week.
Yeah, no, gas prices are still ridiculously high on this side of the state.
I like how you say this side of the state as if you don't live in the middle of the state.
No, 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 no. I'm a West Sider now. West Side.
Wasaid. Uh,
You're gonna move further west next year.
then you could call yourself a West Sider. Uh,
By that I mean I'm gonna move 30 miles west.
hey, at that point, you're no longer in Lansing. You
But
work in East Lansing, bud. The
West
East
Side.
is in the name. But yeah, let's what kind of what we kind of
But
wanted
there's
to talk
okay.
about
But
was
there's
the
all of that. There's all the positives. You've got the Nick Shirley thing with like the Somali migrants,
the Leering Center.
the Leering Center. You've got now. I don't know how much you follow Sean Ryan.
I know
I've
that
mentioned
name.
I've mentioned him before. Sean Ryan show, former U.S. Navy SEAL,
Yes,
works for the
yes,
CIA,
yep.
has the really cool guest on where he gives each of them a sig 360, or what is it? No, it's not a 360.
365.
No, is it a
It's
365?
yeah. I'm saying it certainly ain't the 320.
Yeah, but he gives each of them like a P365, um, or he'll give them like he gave one guy like a Sig Spear. He was like, "Yeah, if you would have had this, you would have survived Black Hawk Down." And hands the guy the Sig Spear. He's like, "That's yours, by the way." It's like,
Ooh, too soon. Too soon. Let it breathe a little.
but like he just dropped a teaser for his next episode that's coming out about the amount of Somali fraud coming out of Maine.
Okay, that state that no
And
one ever thinks about.
the guy said, "Here's the thing: I've discovered that they're sending back close to $500 million, and the money is going straight back to rebuilding locations in Mogadishu to train terrorists."
Well, look, even like putting aside potentially what the money's being used for, if you look at Somalia, they're for like their rent, like their revenue sources, their biggest source of revenue is foreign aid and foreign and people sending money home from other
Huh.
countries. Like they don't have an economy. How are you a country? Um,
Right. So, and that's not, and to be fair, right? Like, if it was white people, I would call it white people for it. If I was brown people, I call it brown people for it. It's like it has nothing to do with race or
it's
ethnicity or where you're from.
it's the fact that you are taking
It's
money
a
away
dis,
from
it,
us
it's a
to somewhere else.
disproportionate percentage of the population that is doing it. And then, like within, I believe, less than 72 hours of all this Nick Shirley stuff popping off, you have the ICE situation happening now in Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have, like, as of just this weekend, a church literally being stormed by protesters in the middle of a service.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems like everything you're hearing in the news is sensationalized one way or another.
100%. Like we're at the time of recording, we are 3 weeks into the new year, and more stuff has happened in those 3 weeks than it feels like the past 3 months. But at the same time, when was the last time you hear someone actually talk about? We took Maduro on the 6th to the 7th. Hasn't been brought up in the regular news cycle ever since.
No, there's very niche voices talking about it, right? Like, probably a lot of the voices that we follow, right? Like, neither of us are veterans, but we both kind of find ourselves falling into that, like, weird niche military content type situation where it's
We
like we end
like
up,
goods.
yeah. And so some of the people that we're following are still kind of commenting on that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not really been a major thing in the news media. It's like, okay, that happened January 6th. Okay, what's the next thing? And then what's the next thing?
Yeah.
And I also think about, like, when was the last time you actually heard something positive from a news source?
And when you say positive, also like not with a slant on it too. Like what people are taking, they're taking a lot of these incidents that are happening. They're trying to put a positive spin on it, or like it's pushing some agenda that they have. But I, call me rose-colored glasses. I remember when I was a kid, there was a time where the news just reported on things that were happening, and whether it was good or bad, there was a balance, but it was showing like this is what's happening. Oh yes, this horrible tragedy happened. Also, this really great thing happened. We just don't see that.
And I do think, like, so, and maybe this was a whole other concept of like the idea of nationalized news and international news. Like, because I mean, we're both at that age where we're not really watching the local news to find out weather.
We're
But
in
like,
the age of information where it's on my phone now.
right, but I remember, and maybe you have this experience, maybe you don't. So my dad, given the jobs he worked when I was younger, he would have to be up at like 5 in the morning. So he would watch the nightly news for the weather predictions, even though he easily could have gotten on a computer, went to weather.com.
I I remember waking up like at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and going to like if there was potential for a snow day, You didn't get just like you couldn't just hop on snow day calculator at the time. Like you had to go and like you had to wait either for a phone call, like an all call from the school, or like for your like for all right, Wayne County pops up and you have to wait for your school to pop up on like the little like scrolling bar to tell you if your school was closed or not.
The big one for us was the radio station because we didn't have a local news station that reported on those kind of things. Like I was in a town of 4,000, so it was like, you know, they would report on what the weather was, but they're not. They're talking specifically to Austin, Travis County schools. You know,
Metro Detroit, so we just had everything.
right? And they would say like, "Oh, this school is closed," but the radio was going to get it to you faster.
Yeah.
So we'd listen on the radio and all those kind of things. And but it was like the local news, like, right, like your Fox 7 news, your,
Hmm.
those kind of stuff. Like those, I think, are relatively tame. And as far as like they're reporting on like things that are happening in your locality,
Yep. And
you know,
again, I'm from
and,
the Detroit area. You would expect there to be a lot more negative news out there. If you listen to the national media, Detroit's falling apart. It's the worst place. It's one of the worst cities. You look at the local news, it's just like every other city. Yeah, there are bad things that happen, but they also report on all the good things that happen in there.
right. So the local news, I feel like, is actually a fair representation of what news is supposed to be. But this idea of like a nationalized news or an international news, and especially like a 24-hour news cycle.
Have you seen Anchorman?
Yes,
And have you seen
I've seen.
Anchorman 2?
I have seen Anchorman too.
It's just
Have you seen Three Electric Boogaloo?
I wanted to make a joke, but I'm not going to. But it's just literally the plot of Anchorman 2, where like, what if we just tell the people what they want to hear? And what do they want to hear? Well, and nowadays it's one of two things: either America is the greatest nation to ever exist, or America is a trash hole that needs to be burned to the ground, and billionaires are trying to eat your children. And like, there's nothing in between. Like, there is pretty much like I can think of one or two conservative source like global news ones, and I can think of like three or four big uh liberal ones. There's really nothing in the middle. Even the ones that claim to be in the middle do lean one way or the other pretty heavily.
Right, right. And so it's interesting that when we were talking about this pre-show, right, and what we were going to talk about, I mentioned this concept of like the yellow news cycle or like yellow journalism, which dates back actually to the earliest reportings of people like with this idea of yellow journalism dates back to the 1810s with a newspaper that was known as The Sun, which was based out of New York City. And it was the first news source to actually report on fictionalized news, what we would now call today fake news.
The Onion.
No. The Onion is satire. The Sun was not claiming to be satire. For example, the New York Sun reported on that, oh, a recent astronomer found bison and sheep and men living on the moon. This was an actual news source. They created fabricated sources, and it was in print in the 1810s.
Hmm.
And the ramping up of the centralization of the news cycle only got more and more prominent as we approach this idea of nationalized news. So, like, think about it from this perspective, right? Like, let's go back like 400 or 500 years. How did you get your news when there wasn't really a printing press that was? Well, it would come from local people talking to one another, right? Obviously,
Old Greg's got all the info. His he knows everyone.
obviously there was the rumor mill, right?
Hmm.
But then you had like the concept of like the town crier, papal decrees, decrees from the king, right? These were your news sources. Was like official proclamations from
Hmm.
someone. And then that as you start to privatize the news, so to speak, and it's like, oh, I own a printing press, I can print my own version of the news. But what's going to sell things the most?
Ads.
Ads. But like, not even just that. Like, right? Like, so you're going to sell ads, but also what's going to get the most people paying the penny that it cost me to get my paper? Right? Because up until the late 1800s or the early 1800s, most of the people who were buying the paper were not actually day-to-day people.
Oh
It was
yeah,
business owners.
yeah. It's people who
It was
needed
people who needed to
information.
know what was going on in these other parts of the world for their life.
Yep.
But now, okay, I can charge a penny to print this. What is going to get people to pay a penny to pick this up? Gossip columns, sensationalized news,
Well, what they
the
did
big
was
title.
originally it would be this is information that people need, so they would be like, all right, what is the local businesses need to know about? Okay, if we live in a town that does coal mining, okay, we need to know about trade stuff like that. And they're like, okay, now that I've gotten all the people, all the business owners, and I've gotten all their niches. Who else can I sell to? Well, they have wives. How do I get the wives who want to read the paper? And then they have the gospel, that by itself is not a bad thing. You're trying to all right. What is the need of my audience? You know, I have an audience of people that are trying to take my information, trying to expand their needs. But what happens is then you start saying, well, how can I make more money now that I've gotten everyone? How do I make sure that now there's another printing press and a guy who's selling the news? How can I make mine more interesting than his? And then it's one of those times where competition, yes, it breeds more innovation, but innovation sometimes is not the best thing when
Right.
it's
So, so,
an
so
objective thing.
you have the New York Sun, which is kind of promulging this. And then starting in the 1890s, you have two more New York newspapers who start to compete for viewership, right? One of them is owned by a man by the name of William Pulitzer. Pulitzer Prize, all these kind of things. But they start sensationalizing the news because now it's not just, okay, I want people to buy my newspaper. I want my people to buy the newspaper more than I want them to buy that other guy's newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to have the competing narratives. I mean, obviously, like we can extrapolate this all day
Yeah,
and get you the
it's
modern time.
it's not hard but what's happened now is all right. We have Fox News and CNN, or pick your two.
MSNBC, BBC,
Yeah, pick your poison. Well, one says America is the greatest country in the world, can do no wrong. Everything that we have ever done has always been the right thing. Or it's America is a country that needs to be burned to the ground. It should have never existed. And they constantly are going further and further away from each other rather than the middle, where usually where the truth is of the matter. Regardless of which side you are on the political spectrum, there is good and bad in everything that's happening in the world. But what we have to do is we have to sensationalize it, but also by the other thing I've noticed is we've sensationalized like news to the point where we are desensitized to things that are happening. Like I remember when I was in middle school and like the first like school shootings have happened, they've been around, but when that epidemic first really started, whatever you want, however you want to phrase it, like that was big news. It was something that we had to be like we had to go through all these trainings for, or something that like they instilled fear in every kid and every parent, especially. This is going to happen to your child, and now it's like, oh dang, another school shooting. Oh dang, another insert tragedy here. Regardless of what it is, we become desensitized to because it is thrown in our face constantly, and we're hearing so many different conflicting opinions on what the motivations were, who caused it, why it happened, to the point where it's like I don't care anymore. Like I just like, and that's a horrible thing to say. Like, but tragedies don't affect like global or national tragedies don't hit anymore the way they used to, because that's all we're told is there's just tragedy constantly. There is no light anymore in the news cycle because that no one cares about good news. People only care about what's bad going on in the world.
Sorry, I was looking up because I want to, in case we get defamation, I want to make sure that we have our facts straight on a particular situation. But yeah, no, the whole news media cycle, right? Like, and I think like some of the unsub guys said it best, and I know I'm going to butcher what they said, but they said there's really only two things you watch on.
They said we need to bully journalists more.
Yes, but they also said there's only really two things you watch on the internet: things that make you outraged and things that make you cry,
Yep. At least those are the only things that you remember.
or things that make you laugh. Right?
Yes, those. I think those are the three things.
Things that are funny, things that make you cry, or things that make you outraged. And the problem is that I think the news media cycle thrives on the idea of outrage.
It's because it's easy to
right?
make people mad.
Right. Rather than like, what are the facts? What is the truth of this situation? And I mean, going back to what we had talked about at the beginning of the episode, I don't think it's a coincidence that we've lost track of some of these stories. Personally, you want my opinion. It's a big opinion. I think a lot of the things that are happening in the news media, whether they're coincidences that they're all happening back to back or there's a larger scheme at work in the world, you look at like, okay, yes, January 6th, not even, we're barely at 2 weeks out, if that.
Yeah, I think it's 6 or 7, something like that.
We're not even talking about that anymore.
Nope.
We kidnapped. That's what it is. It's a factual statement. We did kidnap, arrested, whatever you want to call it, right?
I would use the term arrested.
We took into custody. How about that?
Yeah.
A world leader.
Yep.
And that's no longer the news media cycle. Then we've got the Somali fraud, which was in the news media cycle for like less than 72 hours. Now we've got the Minnesota protest, which, you know, still in the news media cycle, but now we're talking about Greenland.
Yeah, we jump, 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 jump.
And I think it's like, okay, every 72 hours, it's a revolving door. What's the next story? What's the next story? What's the next story? And maybe there's just that many things going on in the world. And it's a possibility. But also, who's not to say that, like, okay, right? Like, whether it's the right or the left, there's too much heat on this situation. Let's bring in something else to draw the heat away.
Well, because here's what happens on top of it. Because you're right, it is a revolving door. But what happens is we have access to news at our fingertips, but the problem is a lot of times we don't have all of the information. So journalists speculate, and they say, "Well, I think this was the like what." This is jumping back a couple years ago. The Luigi Mangione, like they were speculating about what type of gun he was using, and they had no idea. They were throwing out all these different things. Second assassination attempt for Trump. They're like, it's an AK-47. Anyone who's ever looked at a gun before would be like, that's an SKS. Like, it's just like, but they're not paid to give you the information. They're paid to give you a story as quick as possible. So they're gonna
Yeah.
speculate. They're gonna without having all the facts. They're just gonna throw stuff at you. And then what happens is, so they give you like for Maduro, we heard a lot happen in the first 3 days, and then we haven't heard anything because everyone kind of realized we don't know the specifics of the situation. We don't know what's going to happen with him. So we can speculate. We can only speculate for so long before people are going to say, okay, but what's actually happening? They're like, oh crap, we don't know. So they just shift to something else too. I think that's part of it, honestly. They want to get, they can only tell a story for so long without the actual facts.
But I also think it is that thing of like, okay, without the actual facts, right? Well, people start digging. Right? Okay, think about it from this perspective. And I'm not going to, you know, obviously you and I weren't alive for when the assassination of JFK happened.
No.
I'm curious how long that was in the news media cycle.
Probably a heck of a lot longer.
We also had a major political assassination within the last 6 months. Like outside of a memorial service, when was the last time you heard anything about that investigation?
Well, I hear a lot of conspiracy theories about it, but on the mainstream, not quite there.
And right, I get some of these things take time, right? Like,
And that's what I'm saying, though. I think part of the news cycle is like, all right, we only have a couple of days where we can speculate before people are going to start calling us out and saying you really don't know anything. So rather than say, hey, these are the facts we have as of now, we're going to continue to investigate the story and we'll keep you updated on it. They're just gonna they get all right. We're gonna try to get as much attention as we can on this as possible, and then once we run out of stuff that we can speculate on, we're gonna shift to a different story. And if facts come up that are relevant in the future, and we can spin some more, we'll talk about it. But if it's not gonna make money, they're not gonna talk about it again.
yeah. But this idea of the 24-hour news cycle, and I also think like the idea of privatized news. Now, you're starting to go, Josh, are you talking about communist news cycles, communist news of having the government control the news? No.
We're talking about
What I
lizard
am
people controlling the news.
what I am saying is I don't think it's good for us as Americans or as people in general to have this idea of, well, whose side is the truth? And what if there was just the truth? The truth of the matter is that like there's fraud happening in large scale across America. The truth is the fact that like we have been in a long-standing Cold War with Venezuela,
Most of South America, really,
largely Venezuela.
and Colombia,
Eh,
to a lesser extent. But habitual line crosser had a great line on the Venezuela thing. He said, "Look, you can't talk that much crap, have that much oil, and have that small of a military, and think you're gonna get away with it."
well, yeah, and whether like you asked me, I don't know the full facts of the situation. Um, I do think that like you know there probably should have been more congressional action with it rather than a unilateral decision by the president.
I would disagree. I would point to Bin Laden. Obama didn't need congressional permission to go take him. I think the difference is here he was a semi-recognized political leader, and we captured him rather than just killed him.
Yes, I also think though Bin Laden was a different sort of case in that we're talking about an active combatant as well.
I don't think that's a argument to be made here because Maduro was straight up like it has been confirmed by many people within his circle. Like,
Once again, I don't know the full facts of
yeah,
the
but
situation. That's how we're
there
keeping
is
up
a
with it.
there was an active bounty on his head from the United States government. Like that was already a thing. That was something I believe Biden put into place. Like Biden put a
It was
bounty on it. So like we were just following a mission that was already
right.
there.
There's that to be said too. So I don't know the full facts of the situation. I'd like to know more facts about it because then I could make a more informed opinion.
Mhm.
Right, but there's a difference between when you're making an opinion and you're supposed to be sharing news that is
Correct.
fact.
Correct. And that's something that is news is supposed to be as objective as it can be. Here are the facts of the case as we know them at the moment.
Do you remember during COVID, John Krasinski?
Just hearing Vietnam flashbacks right now.
Yeah, I know, demonetized. Not that we were monetized in the first place. But do you remember John Krasinski's Good News Network?
I do not.
So John Krasinski during COVID, he was like, man, all the news is talking about is all the negative things. So he got on YouTube and he started what he called the Good News Network, which just reported on stories that were uplifting and positive.
Mhm. Okay.
Right, like he's obviously a big enough creator where that happened, but then he ended up selling it for like a couple $1,000,000. Let me see if I can find it. Um,
I mean,
but
while you're looking for it, like that's something that would never happen today. Or gosh, I'll have to, I'll I'm gonna butcher the date, but I think it was in the '60s. There was a day where like I think it was the BBC that said there is no news today, and then they just played like a pleasant tune for the rest of the day. Can you imagine if Fox News did that today? Just said there is no news. I'm sorry. I find it very hard to believe that the world is that much more interesting now than it was during the Cold War. Like stuff was still happening. It's just we have decided to take the like, hey, let's take this small story and we're gonna explode it because we need people to. And the other thing is, it's not just 24 hours like the news cycle as far as like watching the news. There's articles being written by a billion different people. Uh, you have vlogs, you have the live news, you have all podcasts. Everyone is trying to get their piece of whatever the story is. And if everyone's already got the big story, well, let me take this small story that no one else is talking about, and I can explode on it. I can expand on it. I can take this one fact from this big story and I can really drill into that and try to and speculate on that. The fact that the news makes as much money as it does, it was only a matter of time before there was going to be corruption in some capacity or a lack of sincerity with it. Like once you get that much money involved, it's just like with sports betting. As soon as sports betting came into like across the United States, like all 50 states had online sports betting. Do you know how many controversial calls have cost teams the win? I just saw a study on this. Um, I think it was for from 2006 to 2018. There were 10 controversial calls that cost teams the win. They were like these were calls that were reported in the news cycle about like that's how big they were, and five of those calls benefited the favored team, and five benefited the underdog. 50-50, which is what you would expect for calls to favor one way or the other. Like it should be about 50%. Since then, in a shorter period of time, in 8 years, there have been 19 controversial calls that have cost teams the game in a major way. Three of them benefited the underdog because if things that benefit the underdog affect Vegas and odds betting and stuff like that, it's not fair for the house. You're telling me there's no correlation between more money being inputted in the system and more questionable content being created?
So, yeah, no, they're totally. So, John Krasinski started the YouTube channel Some Good News in 2020. He released only 15 videos with and had 2.25 million subscribers. Now, obviously, John Krasinski, right? Huge name star.
It does that does help with the initial spotlight.
His last video was dropped 5 years ago and received 2.2 million views. And that was his holiday special with Dwayne Johnson. He sold the YouTube channel to CBS Viacom. Like, and just that idea of like, okay, when was the last time you heard actual like reporting on good news?
From my local, Channel 3 news, that's about it.
But even on a national scale, like reaching 2.2 million viewers. Right? And this is a Catholic podcast. We talk about Catholic things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you can see where this is going, Andrew.
I can. Let's spoon feed a little here.
You know what the best news of all, Andrew, is?
The good news.
The good news. Right? But like,
Open your Bible to John chapter.
but it's like that idea of just like when there's something that is factual, that is news. And nowadays we treat this idea of factual statements as being like, well,
That's
that's your
just like
truth.
your opinion, man.
And it's like, no, there's factual statements that exist out in the world. Right? One of the most factually accredited statements is that there was a man named Jesus Christ who lived 2,000 years ago, who lived the most excellent of all lives, who claimed to be God, performed miracles which would prove his divinity, and then, because of his claim to be God, was punished to death on a cross. And after dying, miraculously rose from the dead. Once again, proving his divinity.
I on the proving his divinity, me and Matt, like we're reading through the daily readings together every day. The number of times where the daily readings like the prophet says that this will happen in this instance, in this way to this type of person, and then in the New Testament, Jesus does that thing the same way that the prophet said that it would, and they're like, I don't know about this guy. And he
And
does
I
that
mean,
so many times.
here's the thing, right? Like we're reading this now, 2,000 years later, and this our generation is an incredibly skeptical generation because of the news media cycle.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here going, "Oh well, you know what? He's they're probably writing this like after the fact. They probably went back and like let's double check our sources. Okay, great. Like the source.
Jesus quotes it several times. He says, like, I mean, obviously, it's people are writing it for, but like, they're like, Jesus says, I'm doing this to fulfill this particular prophecy. And they're still like, but you're not a military leader like David. And that's what we're expecting.
Or even just like, okay, like this is always my big thing. Are you judging other historical articles
With the same
and
scrutiny.
text with the same level of scrutiny, or are you just accepting for the fact that we have less evidence for Alexander the Great than we do for Jesus Christ? Not to change the subject, but I think like this idea of the 24-hour news cycle, it's making us more skeptical because we don't know who to trust.
Yeah.
It's causing fear in the world to an exorbitant degree, and it's not news.
No.
And perhaps as people trying to live out truth, beauty, and goodness, right? Like, and live a more deep and meaningful life, right? Like, it's worth examining, like, what is this news cycle doing to me?
And I want to bring up, jumping back to the time of Jesus, like, I remind, like, you've seen the Rescue Project, I assume.
I've seen parts of it.
Um, Father John Ricardo talks about this, how even back in Jesus' day, like, the gospel, like lowercase g, was like basically like this proclamation from Rome, like the Pax Romana. There's the peace of Rome. This is the golden age of Rome. Everything is great, and that was like what was being told to everyone. But that was only the case if you were a wealthy Roman male who owned property. Like it was it was basically a lie to some extent. Like if you weren't in a very specific set of circumstances, your life still basically sucked or it didn't really affect you in any way. So that was the first instance. That was one of the first instances of like this. The gospel, like this is the news of the king, the emperor. This is his word, and that's what it was. The early church intentionally chose to use that for gospel, like this good news, for what they called the books of Jesus Christ, because it was the first real, truthful news. Like there is some good that is happening here, and is for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time we heard anything that was this? There is good that is happening in the world, and it is something that is benefiting everyone.
Yeah.
It's
I
when we
think
got, and
that's
it's when we got the Pope.
yeah. I think that's kind of good.
Yeah, well, we're just gonna be rehashing the same points.
So I'm satisfied with that episode. Andrew, how are you going deeper?
I was not prepared for this question. No, I'm going deeper by, and this is very like not recent, but like I'm being much more intentional about my purchases. Like, yeah, not just because I'm poor, but like one of the things Amir and I have talked about is all right. Obviously we're having a hard time not managing our money necessarily, but like we constantly we save money and then we have a big setback and we're kind of back to square one. But I've been thinking about like when I go shopping for like groceries, I usually try to be like I'm gonna buy myself one little treat, like I'll buy a box of Cheez-Its. That'll be my snack for the next 2 weeks, something like that. But even going back and like yesterday, I was like, all right, I'm buying a coconut water for Penny because we heard that that's good for her. It's not expensive. It's a small treat for her. And then I almost picked up. I saw a new bag of like these flame. It was like hot buffalo pretzel
Mm,
goldfish, which I'm like, I love pretzel. I love goldfish. I love pretzel goldfish. And I love buffalo. You just combine them all together. It's all right my alley. And I was like, wait, I don't need this right now. Money's a little
mm,
tight. that 250, I could buy a meal for that. Like I could go to Costco and get a hot dog and a pop for that and still have money left over. So it's being much more intentional with my purchases. Like we talked about this before, and like I take a crap ton of supplements every day. It's a ridiculous amount, and I looked through. I was like, I'm spending a lot of money on these. Let me be more. Let me go through and really be selective in discerning like which ones do I are actually helpful or which ones are maybe not quite there, like to the same standard. So I can really be holding myself to a higher standard of is this how can I stretch my dollar the most so that way I'm taking care of my future self and future family by being able to actually have money ready for when things happen. We don't have to scramble and say, well, it's just ramen for the next 3 weeks. So
Yeah.
just being very intentional about do I need this right now or is there a better thing I could spend this on?
Yeah. I would say for myself, the big one has been thinking through like the way I'm approaching my job, right? Like obviously, like right, we've talked about this in private conversations. I spend a lot of time on my job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but one thing that the Lord's been convicting me of is like, how are the relationships with people at my job? Am I being personable enough?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I get emails, text messages, phone calls from students all the time. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to make it an effort when a student emails me and is like, hey, I heard you guys have small groups. How do I get connected to one? Instead of me just like sending them the information, and be like, great question. Why don't we schedule a meeting and let's talk about like what you're looking for?
Mm-hmm.
And like actually get to know the other person and, you know, see how we can help them on their walk through life. So just trying to be more personal, trying to apply that idea of like, okay, like yes, they're asking for information, but what are they actually seeking and how can I help them find that?
I think
So
that's a very worthwhile endeavor.
yeah, it's going to require me to stretch myself because I have about 14 students that I'm training through leadership and discipleship this semester.
And there's one of you.
And there's one of me. So, but on that news, I have to go to the bathroom before I go to the gym.
I also have to go to the bathroom before I scrape my car and go into the frozen tundra.
So this has been fun.
Yes, we will hopefully be back to our regularly scheduled content. So look forward to
Or
more.
maybe some of us have been working on unregularly scheduled content.
Yeah, so we'll be back with
Stay tuned.
our regularly scheduled episodes. Blog posts will be back. We'll try to get some quick fire catechesis and such back on the menu. Now that things are settling down and getting back into a rhythm. So thank you for listening, watching, whatever it is you do. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, donate.
There. And if you found this episode worthwhile, please tell us.
Yes, please leave comments. We love comments. We haven't gotten any in a while. So,
All right.
with that, peace and blessings. May the Lord give you the day that you deserve.
My name's Josh. I'm the Chubby Theolone, and I was joined today by Andrew, the Kurt Locker,
The other
and this
AK
one,
guy.
Into the Deep.
See ya.